G'day world, and welcome to Mindfully Mad Moments. I'm very excited today because, well, I'm talking to the other side of the world, talking with Paul Mudd, who's an awesome mindfulness mentor in Scotland. So, good morning, Paul, for you. My evening, but good morning.
Yep, good morning, John, to you and to everyone who's listening and viewing at the moment. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to a Scotland that at 9 o'clock in the morning you can sit outside in a shirt with some coffee and it's warm, which might sound counterintuitive because it's summer here, but that's not always the case. So that's super.
That is impressive.
Yeah,
I just want to, well, maybe you can introduce yourself and talk a little bit about why we need mindfulness.
Yes, I'll do that. In fact, what I want to do first off is thank you very much for the opportunity today, this morning, this evening, and wherever you are around the world, to share with you and the viewers about my mindfully mad moments. And my mindfulness cup truly runneth over. Okay, now here's the thing, okay? We take around 22,000 breaths each and every day, breathing in through our nose, out through our mouth, or in through our mouth and out through our mouth, because I'm not a purist, no matter how you breathe. But how many of those breaths are we actually conscious and aware of? How many do we ever have a sense of wonder of? And here's another thing. The word ruah, R-U-A-H, appears 384 times in the Old Testament and literally means holy breath or Holy Spirit. The ancient Greeks knew it as pneuma, whilst 2,000 years ago the Chinese called it wu and the Japanese knew it as Santori or Kensho. But mindfulness has been around, in fact, for over 3,500 years. It predates Buddha and Buddhism by 1,000 years, and it's secular. It's not a religion, although you can trace its influence through Judaism, the Kabbalah, Sufism, and through closed monastic prayer in England in the 13th and 14th century. And it's no more Eastern than electricity is Western. It has no borders, and you don't need to suffer to be found or chant, and it's not meditation. Mindfulness, as you well know, is nowhere to go and nothing to do, and that's okay. You just need to be here, now, right where you are in the present moment, alighting on your breath, moment by moment, and using that breath as an anchor, bringing it gently, allowing it to bring you gently back with kind compassion as your mind wanders and agitates, as it will, that monkey mind, that little chimp pattern away. But that's okay, because at its heart, mindfulness is simply an acceptance of whatever is. Now, my book, Uncovering Mindfulness, came about when I was approached by a Danish publisher, ostensibly to write a book about management and leadership for a professional academic series. Because, as well as a father of 5 and a grandfather of 6, I'm a leadership provocateur, a savvy thinker, a part-time disruptor, whatever that means in this day and age. I think it just means doing things differently, enabling yourself to see things differently. I also run a successful executive coaching and leadership consultancy up here in Scotland. But at that time, I was approached by this company that had obviously seen the other stuff. I'd become aware of Goldie Hawn, the American actress, who'd gone to the Global Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, and I think it was about 2013. And she spoke to world leaders, Obama, over here, David Cameron, your prime minister at the time, who were all there, and she spoke about mindfulness, and this piqued both my personal and professional interest. And as you'll know, if you ever want to find out more about something, what do? You write about it. So my mission in life is to make the complex less complex, the tough stuff not so tough, and to put the unreachable within reach of everyone. And firstly, I seek to understand and then be understood. And what really attracted me to mindfulness, both living it and writing about it, is that although as people We are a complex array of emotions, dispositions, desires, and traits that very often pull us in contradictory and different ways. I believe that also, in general, we want to improve our own lives and the lives of those we love. And I wanted ideas and ways to try and make better sense of all this. Because I was, to quote Saint Paul, who's it's P-O-L, who was kicking around in the 14th century, he used to talk about being a strata in search of a kata. And that's where the word catastrophe comes from. And sometimes I can feel like that. And I was really searching for something, and I knew not one, just like those three princes of Serendip, who went in search of they knew not what for serendipity, in the Arabian Tales. And mindfulness and what it has to offer, as well as being so simple, is a very appealing idea with lots of possibilities. I mean, it's like, as I describe it, the profundity of the unexpected. But it's risen up in the world consciousness. In 2015, it was recognized as an official global trend. It's become surrounded, as you'll be well aware of, by a lot of noise and obfuscation and a sense of almost proprietorial ownership by some people, particularly some academics. Because you go and Google mindfulness, you wouldn't necessarily want to start doing it because it seems rather complex and what's this and what's that. And vested interests are grouped around it and started, you can only do mindfulness if you pay us lots and lots of money and immerse yourself and all that. And I want to cut through all that, what I think is bullshit, okay? To tell its story and uncover, reveal mindfulness, make it relevant, contemporary, modern, relatable, accessible, engaging, and most importantly, livable. My bottom line is quite simply that I want people to be able to live it day by day, be empowered to change their lives one small step at a time and not have to go through hoops and hurdles and doors and closed doors and be spoken down to and sit in rooms with lots of people after they've paid money to, not get it, as a sense. And it's a fascinating story, mindfulness. But just take the brain first, okay? Because this there. Imagine this is your head, okay? And that's your inner brain stem. That's your motor functions. That's how we got up and started to walk and breathe. That all happens there. That, as some come across, is the limbic part of the brain, which is the emotions. Your amygdala, your flight and fight responses, all that. And if you pull that down, you have the neurocortex, or the new bark of the brain. Okay? And what's happened in the past 20 years is the understanding of the brain has increased dramatically with all the technology that we can now see right inside the brain and map how it changes. And the brain is not immutable. We now know that, in fact, it's neuroplastic. So a leopard can change its spots. You are not stuck as a child at 7, and that is the way you will be as an adult. We know that. And we also now know, scientifically proven, that mindfulness practice, just mindfulness breathing that you can do just here and now, thickens the connections and synapses in the brain, strengthening the ones you already have and even creating new ones. And I mean, the brain is a fascinating thing. There are more neurons, connections in your brain than there are stars in the Milky Way. The brain itself is the most complex organization of matter in the known universe and is a great example, if you remember the fifth there, of vertical integration with the higher order executive functions, the thinking, the deciding, the prioritizing at the top, and everything going down to the bottom, to the lower areas where it's actually keeping you breathing and keeping you alive. But here's the kicker. It's not wholly of your own making, your brain. It's a product of a code that has been written and rewritten and edited for millions of years. Because, in fact, that oldest part of the brain, the inner brain stem, is over 400 million years old, and it's known as the reptilian brain. Whilst the newer bit, the new bark, neurocortex here, is itself over 200 million years old. And we use only 10% of our brain at any one time. A dolphin uses 20% of its brain, thinking about, as we were talking earlier, for animals and ability to be mindfulness. An elephant's brain is 2/3 bigger than a human brain, but most of that is to move its trunk around and flap its ears, interestingly enough. And did you know you have 3 brains? You have a head brain, a heart brain, and a stomach brain. And if you get good food, serotonin in the stomach comes back up. And they're all connected by the central nervous system, or the vagus nerve that runs from the back of your neck down through your abdomen and in. That's all science. A couple more things about the brain before I move on. It accounts only for 3% of your body mass, but uses 20% of your total energy expenditure. So when the kids are studying for their exams, or you're fretting about an interview or whatever, then you're using quite a lot of energy because your brain is going. And that 20% of energy is enough to light up a light bulb. Also, our minds wander 40% of the time on average, and we give anything only 40% of our attention. Did you know that a goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds, and a person, a man, a woman, a child online has an average attention span of only 8 seconds? Proven. We only see 1/trillionth of the electromagnetic spectrum that surrounds us, right? We're surrounded by vast amounts of stimulus, and we think we know and we see and whatever, but actually our brain is only processing between 7 and 9 pieces of this stimuli at any one time, okay? And we're born with the ability to make every sound in every language in the world, which is 6,800 plus languages. And French babies and German babies cry at different pitches and rhythms because, like all babies from anywhere in the world, they are listening to their mothers in the womb, and language is already starting, and the ability there. So the world is a and the brain and what we live in is just fascinating and awesome, and mindfulness is a simple key into that. Because just 5 minutes of mindful breathing every day for as little as 8 weeks can create new neural pathways and connections. It can increase resilience, emotional intelligence, compassion in the workplace, employee engagement, performance, productivity, because people do business with people. And they say that mindfulness puts the heart back into business. It brings on better leaders. It better prepares our children and our grandchildren for the world of work that will be their reality in 2055 or whatever. Because what is a skill or a job or an organization going to look like then, let alone by 2030? You know, I'll tell you a little fact here. 50 years ago, someone would leave school knowing 75% of everything that they'd need to know for the next 40 years of their working life. A young person today leaves school today knowing less than 2% of what they're going to need for possibly the next 40 years. Because our world is capricious, it's unpredictable, it's volatile, ambiguous, complex, uncertain. It's technically what they're now saying is the Anthropocene. That is, everything is just getting quicker and quicker and quicker and more unpredictable. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Henry Ford, 100 years ago, installed those, industrial lines, totally revolutionary. But he was saying then that people were rushing around with nervous hands and worried minds. It's all relative to the time, so we mustn't, be scared and whatever, but we must be positive and take this. But in the past 10 years, we've seen and been witness to a profound transformation in so many areas of our lives, and it's brought in some unheralded and unique challenges. And this is why I think we need mindfulness. And we're really missing a trick if we don't, each and every one of us, just start, that first step. Because here's some unique figures just for the UK, and they'll be similar in Australia and all parts of the world. But in the UK, each year, the UK economy loses £23 billion because of stress-related absences in the workplace. 23 billion. That's a lot of hospitals. It's a lot of schools. It's a lot of teachers. It's a lot of policemen on the beat. It's a lot of nurses, in times of economic austerity and whatever. The annual cost of this to employers themselves, employers bearing that cost, is 1.24 billion. And that equates to 105 million lost working days a year. 100, and that's just in the UK. And also, in line with that, apparently the 18 to 35-year-olds, the millennials, are saying that they're feeling greater pressure at work than their baby boomer colleagues. So like you and I, John, I think have got it easy, you know, and this is poor young ones. It's hard.
Really?
Yeah. Also in the UK, between 75 and 90% of all visits to a doctor are stress-related, which on one hand is good that they're not serious and, you know, it's not about cancer and other things, but stress-related, okay? Up to 90% of visits. 50 million scripts, which is what we call them in Scotland, for depression, that's a doctor's prescription, are written in the UK alone in 2015. So that's not even the current figures. Current figures you can't get at the moment. And 1 in 4 people in the UK have experienced a mental health issue. In fact, the latest available figures I could get suggest that 16 million people experience the mental health problem each year, and a third of adults, all adults in Britain, have experienced suicidal feelings at some point in their life through stress. I mean, that's pretty contemplative, isn't it? It makes you reflect and think, woo. 9 million people in the UK are currently on some form of antidepressant. The mental health problems in the UK overall, that's all mental health problems, cost the UK economy upwards of £70 billion totally. That's a total thing each year. By 2030, just to broaden it out a bit, the World Health Organization itself believes that cancer and heart disease won't any longer be the biggest draw upon global health resources. It will be mental health. Just coming back to the UK, and this, you know, as a father and as father yourself and whatever, but we've all got a stake in humanity. But 500,000 children in the UK are diagnosed with stress or stress-related conditions each year, and that's a 28% increase in the past 10 years. Okay, and the modal onset, that's the average age onset for clinical depression, this isn't just having a bad day and whatever, for a young person, it's 13 to 14 years of age. Okay, and you know, you can see that, and God forbid, but it is the case. These things are replicated across the world, you know, these are the things, but just giving you a flavour of what's around here and why, you know, mindfulness just seems to me like, yes. But you sort of ask why, and some of it's quite self-evident, because over 9 hours a day on average is what a lot of people spend on a screen. And that's not necessarily good or bad, but that's a lot of time, because that is more than most of us get to sleep each night, okay, for whatever reason. In the United States, the average Facebook user spends 40 minutes every day just updating their status, and most of them, it's about 30 million, get their news and everything from Facebook and not from anywhere else, and all that's going on. And screens have been called electric cocaine. And this pattern starts early because Ofcom, which is a regulator in the UK, suggests that some children under 3 years are already spending up to 3 hours a day or more on some form of screen. We check our mobile phones between 150 and 224 times a day on average, which is about once every 4.5 minutes. But a lot of people actually touch their mobile phones, and I won't ask you to guess it, but it's 2,617 times a day. Now, I don't know who they got to count this, but these are reputable figures, okay? So people are touching it, you know, just got it there, safety blanket, whatever. And according to the latest figures from Deloitte Touche, which is a big consultancy company, 1 in 3 of us check our smartphones in the middle of the night, actually waking up, and then we'll check them. And 10% of us do it as our first act on waking up. It's not me, and I'm sure it's not you, but there we are. And then is it any surprise that 15 to 20%, again, this is from the UK, of us admit to feeling unusually tired. But, you know, you've not just got all that going on. If you've got children, you've got getting them to school, you've got classes in the evening and weekends. If you're in work, you're working longer hours. The number of people working longer hours on average in the UK has increased 20% since 2010. That's 3.5 million more adults are working what's considered excessive hours. An office worker, someone in the office, they're not escaping this, they're not immune from it. They check their email on average between 30 and 40 times an hour. Okay? And being aware that you have an unread email in your inbox has been seen to reduce your functional IQ by 10%. On average, in business, you're interrupted in the workplace once every 7 minutes, and an employee spends just 11 minutes on a task before moving on to something else, whilst a Fortune 500 chief exec, they might be getting the big money and so forth and whatever, but with all the emails and meetings and stuff they have to do, they have 28 minutes only uninterrupted each day. The rest of the time is all taken. Again, these are averages worked out through lots of study and whatever. But it's also impacting on our social life, as we know. Between 2004 and 2014, 1/3 of all marriages in the United States were between couples who met online. And I don't think
Wow.
they're all, and I don't think they're all happy, because this is going to think 1 in 4 admit to looking at their mobile phones whilst having sex.
What?
Yeah, I know. Go figure. Okay, and by 2020 there will be plus or over 50 billion connected devices globally. Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of compelling reasons to why we need mindfulness, Paul.
Well,
No doubt.
this is why I want to, to talk about these and whatever. So apart from, the book that I wrote and sold around the world and that, I wrote a series called Mindful Hacks for Mindful Living and Mindful Working, the Coffee and a Cup of Mindfulness series, a From Mindfulness with Love series that was originally on iTunes and it's now on YouTube. And I wanted to use the From Russia with Love music to or the James Bond and a little bit. You can't do that for copyright reasons. But I've also written multiple pieces for, amongst other, the Huffington Post, Thrive Global, Thoughts and Ideas India, the Wellness Universe, and Medium in the US. And I was doing a little tot up the other day, just apropos of nothing, and I just worked out the average of all the stuff I've written that's published, that's out there, and over the past couple of years it adds up to more than 1 million words on mindfulness, on well-being, on well-doing, on well-living. And as you'll know, I've now got a video series coming out, and the first one, the 6 Steps of Mindful Living, is out there, and I'm sure you'll share it, we'll share it and make that available, because I just think it's incumbent about any of us that get it, feel it, live it, believe it, to make it livable, make it accessible, get it out there and whatever. So at some point, they do say in communication terms that you have to generally say something 8 times for someone to get it, to then act upon it. Okay? So we've just got to keep saying it and spreading that mindful butter, but in all the different ways that we can. In my book, Uncovering Mindfulness, and I think it's on page 78, I give my 5 steps for a mindful revolution, and I'll just say what those are, just very briefly. Step 1, and they're in no particular order, but we begin by changing the story, the conversation, the conversation of our lives, the story of our lives, one small step, one little leap of faith at a time. We give common humanity, compassion, collaboration real weight and value. We recognize, we don't just pay lip service to things. We recognize and make mindfulness a key part of maintaining wellness. And you think about all those facts, I think, that out there, the costs to the world in so many different ways. But we make it a key part of maintaining wellness and promoting well-being. We ensure that day-to-day happiness is at the heart of every policy decision. And I think it's in Malaysia that happiness is one of their indicators, and when they are making policy decisions, it is happening in parts of the world. And we proactively uncover mindfulness, each and every one of us, and live it without words, just allowing it to be who we are. Because and mindfulness is really, it's not a revolution, it's about evolution. It's a small change here, a nudge there to a slightly different way of being and doing. It's not scary, so it's not going to cost you a lot or anything really. This. It's about just doing things, little things, because change only happens. And I work a lot in change and complexity, in wearing another hat, where people alter their behavior. And they only alter their behavior by taking small steps. So this is why there's a lot of dysfunctional change in our NHS system, because they think they can do it by project management and not talking to the staff and just having big initiatives and whatever. It's actually about one conversation, one step at a time. It's actually called dialogic change and that. And it's not the easy way to do things, but it's a way to get results. And now people change. They're not scared to change, people generally. They just want to do it one step at a time and realize that it's not linear. Change isn't linear. It's not this happens, that. This is why Prince 2 project management by, it's ridiculous, because change is like a cup of coffee. If I drink my coffee black, but if I started milk into that coffee, it would change it. It would change from the now to the new. And if I added more milk in it, it would change again. And this is what change is. It's not A, B, C, D, right to Z. It's you put something in, it will change. And you put something in again, and you react and line your ducks up around what that new is, and then you move to the next new. But it's about taking those small steps to make that unreachable reachable. Now, I don't want to go on too much longer because I've given you a lot of meat and content there as well, but I think it's so important just to hear and feel it. I started, though, talking about those 22,000 breaths each and every day. Okay? Well, here's another very important number. Did you also know that there are 86,400 seconds in every day? No stockpiling or trading or cashing in for something else. Your lot is your lot. So spend that lot each and every day wisely. Invest in yourself and be mindful. And it's as easy as that. Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Just one other thing, just a PS there.
Yep.
The subtitle of my book, and because I think this will resonate with you, is the title is Uncovering Mindfulness in Search of a Life More Meaningful. But the subtitle is From Hegel to Van Morrison. And it's not because it starts with Hegel and ends with Van Morrison, but it is, the book does, not mindfulness, because it starts with a quote from the German philosopher George Friedrich Hegel, who in the 18th century said, "You, I, intentionality." And it ends with the lyrics from Van Morrison's Madame George from Astral Weeks, which is, "There is a train, there is a train of thought." Okay, thank you. And let's spread that mindful button. It's a mission.
Yeah, I love your hashtag, Paul. I see it regularly now. Hashtag mindful butter. Yeah. And my main, or one of my hashtags is mindfully mad.
Yeah.
So people can find you on mindfullymad.org, find a mindfulness mentor. They can find you that way. What other ways can they find you besides following the link that I've put up on this talk?
If they were to Google Uncovering Mindfulness on Amazon, the book will come up. For example, my business website that the Mudd Partnership is called is www.themuddpartnership. That's MUDD partnership.co.uk, and that's got a load of stuff on mindfulness and links to other pieces and stuff that I've written, as well as the other business that we do in executive coaching and leadership and complexity and stuff. And if you just Google me, if you Google Paul Adam Mudd, DD, it will come up with the me on Huffington Post, on Thrive Global, on Medium, and other things, that's great about today. If you write enough stuff and it gets out there and people carry it and it gets thinking, you're a footprint. You're searchable, which means you can't be naughty anymore. You'll get found by the wrong people.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
And thanks for giving me a sneak preview of the little video that you've put together, and which you're going to be releasing very soon. And I will be sharing that on Mindfulness Mentor, no doubt about it, because it's very impressive. Yeah, so thank you for all you do in the mindful revolution that is happening globally. And it's very interesting to hear your scientific views, because I don't delve into that too much. And because science certainly can show what mindfulness does to our brains, which is very impressive. And it's helping it become mainstream as well. But mindfulness, the practice of mindfulness really is an art. And we all practice in our unique ways, every one of us. And that's the beauty of it. I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
So
not about a right or a wrong way either.
Thank you very much, Paul, for your very interesting talk.
It's a pleasure.
You've covered a lot of ground there, that's for sure. Yeah. So anyhow, I'll close by saying, be mindful, pause, connect.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, John. Thank you. And you keep doing what you're doing, mate. Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye for now.